welcome back. The next part that we're gonna do is adding a foot to the bottom of our mug. I'm gonna show you how to do that next, okay? So gently flip over your project and put it on its rim and put it in the center of your board. And then we're just gonna kind of leave that to the side. You're gonna need your bowl of water. You're gonna essentially need everything out of your bag today except for your sketchbook. Put your sponge in the water. Get this wooden skewer out. Get the fork out. And your paintbrush. Get your slip out. Hopefully you guys added water to it already. And you can see the water's a little separated out of it. It's not all fully mixed in. I don't want to spill it, but that's what's happening. Take your slip and you're gonna take your paintbrush and you're just gonna kind of gently stir in the clay and the water. Don't do it fast. You don't want to make a mess and spill everywhere. You just gently stirring it together to get a better consistency. Because right now all of the water is sitting on the top and we want to stir it together. This is going to take a little bit. So remember, slip is our clay glue. It's important to take care of this throughout the projects as well. Okay, you can kind of just leave that aside with your paintbrush. All right, so get this fishing line out of your bag. It's kind of hard to tell. Hopefully the camera's focusing in on it. And then you're also going to need 2 paper clips out of your bag. 2 paper clips. What you're gonna do is take one end of the fishing line and you're gonna string it through the paper clip and then tie it. Give it like 3 knots just to make sure it's secure. And then your fishing line is now attached to a paper clip. You're gonna take the other end now that is not and do the exact same thing. String it through the paper clip, give it like 3 knots. Okay. And now you're gonna have a makeshift wire cutter. So we have 2 paper clips and the fishing line in between. Okay, we don't need that quite yet. We just got it ready for what we need. What you're gonna do is open up your good clay. I want you to find whichever block is the smallest. So there's lots of different size blocks in here. Choose whichever one is the smallest. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm gonna go with this top one here. You're gonna need the biggest block for one of your projects, and then you're gonna need a medium block for one of them as well. So take the smallest one. That's gonna be the one that we're starting to take clay from for all of our projects to add things onto. All right, so this is my smallest one. I have actually pretty large chunks of clay in here. A lot of you guys do too, but a lot of you guys also have small ones, so I do apologize for the inconsistency. And what you're gonna do is divide this into 3s gently. I'm gonna take my wooden skewer and just very lightly carve 2 lines into it that divide it into 3s. So it is now divided into 3s, very lightly. I did not carve very deep into the clay. And now what we're gonna do is cut off 1/3 chunk. We do not need half of it. We obviously don't even need the full third, but just for a clean cut, we're gonna do it this way. So you're gonna take your little tool that you just made with the 2 paper clips and the fishing line, and you're gonna hold onto the paper clips in your hands like this, essentially like makeshift handles. And then you're going to wrap your 2 fingers and wrap your 2 fingers around it like this. So it's gonna be kind of like floss, how you would wrap your fingers around floss. And what you're gonna do is, I use my thumbs like this to support it. You're gonna stick the fishing line into one of those lines you made and you're gonna push all the way down let go, because it's not gonna go all the way through yet because it didn't have room to go. And then you're gonna pull with these two handles that you just made all the way through. And then now you're gonna have a bunch of clay stuck to here. Just run your fingers down this, stick that into your water. Okay, set that aside. And now you have a perfect, satisfying little cut there. All right, take this good block, put it back in your good clay bag. Really important is that we're taking care of this bag at all times, okay? This is your entire grade in a bag. So if you have a spray bottle, give it 1-2 sprays. If you don't have a spray bottle, no worries. Get your sponge, wring it out in the water, and just give it a little bit of a drizzle on top. Try to get any air out, and then seal it, and then try to get the air out and seal it fully. Wrap the bag back down. I wrapped it up 3 times, and then I'm gonna get my paper binder clip, put it on top, and then pull the flaps down. Okay, we don't need this anymore. You can put this back in your bag. All right, so now you have this little chunk of clay that you cut off, 1/3 of that cube. You're now gonna cut this in half. Again, it doesn't have to be a perfect measurement. Pick it up and then pull it through, and then you have another cut. It doesn't need to be a perfect measurement. It's just to get a general little chunk of clay, all right? And then clean off your string again. Okay, now if you have a big one and a small one, I want you to choose the small one for this step. We'll use the big one later. Let's see. It's hard to tell. I'll just go with one, doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to roll a coil. It is a very, very important part of ceramics. You use coils for everything, and you're also gonna have an entire project built out of coils. So it's important that you learn how to do it. The first thing that I'm gonna do is, you notice all these edges on the rectangles that are very, very sharp. Not sharp literally, but like the harsh edges. I'm gonna take my thumb and I'm gonna gently push into these edges. That way I'm rounding out the edges so they're not so pointy. So I'm just using my thumb and I'm rounding these out. I'm just gently pushing into these corners. All right, so now it's kind of like a rounded out rectangle. It doesn't have those harsh lines. Sorry, I'm really shaky. And then now I'm gonna start to cup it in my hand a little bit, trying to round it out, and it's also gonna start to get longer. And then gently kind of rub it or roll it in your hands. All right. Okay, so the motion that we're gonna be doing is called rolling a coil. And essentially what you're gonna be doing, let's pretend this is the clay. You're gonna be using the tip of your fingers. So the tip of your fingers right here, and then you're gonna push and roll through to the base of your palm right here. And then you're gonna go back to the tip of your fingers, and then you're gonna roll through to the base of your palm. So you're going palm to fingers, and that is the rolling motion. I like to just do this with one hand, but you can also do it with two, whichever one you prefer. I'm gonna get rid of any dry clay that's on here, and then I'm gonna hold the newspaper down right here with my hand, just because you don't want to accidentally roll the newspaper into it and then ruin it. And all I'm going to do is just to kind of gently roll it, just see if I can just get it to roll easily. I'm not adding any pressure here, but just so you guys can see, I'm starting with my fingertips, going all the way through to the base of my palm, going back like this. I'm just doing this over and over again, and it's just going to get faster. All right. Now I'm going to start to add some pressure from one end and then try to work my way through to the other end. All right, this is a little bit too big of a piece for me, so I'm going to just take my little tool that we use to cut and just slice this down the middle like that. And now I'm going to take the half of it. Sorry, I got clay in my eye. Okay, This is gonna be much easier to work with, but I'm gonna round it out again because it started to get a little rectangular. I'm just gonna twist it and pinch it a little bit to get it into a somewhat round shape, like that. So this is what it looked like before. I just pinched it and made it a little bit longer and rounder. Now same motion for the rolling. Just gently roll. I'm not really adding pressure yet, I'm just rolling it. And then now I'm gonna start from one end and then roll with some pressure to the other end instead of start to get bigger. Now I'm rolling back to this end, all the way through. Rolling back to the other end, all the way through. And that is how you roll a coil. This one's a little thicker, on the thicker side, but basically all I want is a coil that's about the thickness of my pinky. So what I mean by that is when I put my pinky in front of it, it's not wider than that. So it's just the same thickness as my pinky. And this is a really good coil. All right, I'm gonna show you one more time with that other piece, just in case you needed it. So roll this other piece out into your hand. Hold your newspaper and then gently, I'm not adding any pressure here, I'm just trying to roll it out, make sure that it spins nicely. Like this, okay. And now I'm gonna start from one end, add a little bit of pressure into my movements and then work my way to the other end. Like that. You can also do it with two hands if you start in the middle and then work your way out. You just have to keep it even. I have found that I break it way too easily this way, which is why I don't like to work this way. I just like to do it with my one hand. But if the two hands work better for you, you just start in the middle and then you start to gradually move your hands out in the opposite directions. And then you can still get a nice little long coil there. All right, so we have our coil made. So how do we turn that into the foot? You're going to take this, the one that you're gonna use. You should only have one unless you wanted to practice like me. And you're gonna just measure it to the bottom, okay? So I want you to just measure where it's gonna go and then intersect the pieces like that. That part where it intersects right here is where we need to cut it. So that way it'll mend together and we can attach it together. So I want you to get your last paper clip out of your bag. You should have a total of 3, and this one's full still. What you're gonna do is just pull one end out. So now you have a sharp tool. All right, this is what I like to use to cut better. I like it just more than I like these tools to cut, which is why I will be using this anytime we cut. So what you're gonna do now is cut where these two pieces intersect. So I cut one off. It's not gonna get, excuse me, it's not gonna give you the best cut. Let me turn it around this way so you guys can see it. All I'm doing is pushing it through like that. Now I'm gonna connect these two pieces together here, and I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second. I actually don't like this cut, so I'm gonna recut it. There we go. That's a better cut for me. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but I cut it at an angle. And I cut the other end at the opposite angle. That way when you put it together, they're gonna make a whole section there. If you guys aren't able to do that just because it's a little difficult to see, no worries. You'll be able to attach it either way still. But just cutting at an angle makes it slightly easier and more room to attach. So when I mean cut it at an angle, most people generally just cut straight through, like this. When I say cut at an angle, I mean literally put your paper clip at an angle and then push through. Then it's cut and you have a flat surface to attach to, instead of just a round surface to attach to like this one. But again, if that part doesn't make sense to you, no worries, we're virtual, I get it, we're gonna make it work either way. Okay, so now I need to attach these two pieces together to form a solid foot for my piece. What we're doing is called slipping and scoring, and this is like the most important thing I can teach you in ceramics because it's what you're gonna be using on every single project from here on out. Slipping and scoring is what you do to attach any two pieces together. It does not matter what project we are on. If you're attaching something to another piece in ceramics, you have to slip and score to get it to stay. It's not gonna stay if you just blend it together. It's gonna dry out and not stick. The slipping and scoring creates a bond that's gonna seal it together, and then when we fire it, it'll solidify. All right, so scoring is just making marks on your clay. Again, let me get a piece out to show you. So scoring is making intersecting marks on your clay. So what I mean by that is that I like to use this tool and pretend this is your clay. This is just an example. I'm gonna draw lines on it in one direction. Like that. Now, to make successful score marks, they need to intersect each other. So I'm gonna take my tool and I'm gonna draw the lines going the opposite direction so they all intersect each other. Like that. So essentially like plaid, how plaid overlaps each other. So your lines just need to be intersecting each other in order to be successful score marks. This is a much smaller surface, so you're not really gonna have to do nearly as much work, but just take your wooden skewer or your paper clip or your fork, whichever one you like better, and you're just gonna start to mark it in one direction. Okay, that's where I'm attaching it. Now I'm gonna mark it in the opposite direction, and now it's a roughed up area of clay. Okay, so you can't just score one side, you have to score both sides. So now I'm gonna do the same thing to this side here that's gonna be attaching to this one. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. And now I'm intersecting them. So there's one side and then there's the other. They're both scored because they're both getting attached together. Now, we're gonna do the slip part. Take a little bit of your slip and just put it on one side, dab it on. Okay, slip is on this side, not on this side. It only needs to be on one side. And then you're going to push them together and seal it. Okay, so now they are pushed together. That little bit of pressure is what really seals it. It's attaching the two grooves together. And it's what makes sure there's no air bubbles, because remember, air bubbles are not good in ceramics. And now I'm just blending it out, trying to make it look like that never happened. You don't want to be able to see where you attach things, you should blend them out. So you can blend with your fingers or you can blend with your sponge, whichever one. But my clay is cracking pretty bad, which is fine. You can fix that. It's normal. The clay just went through a lot and our hands and the newspaper both dry it out. So it's totally normal for it to start cracking. All right, now I have a nice smooth little circle. It's a little uneven in some spots, but that's okay. Now we're gonna get it attached to the bottom here. So same thing, we need to score and slip the ends that are being attached. For something that's larger like this, I don't mind using my fork, but your fork has 4 prongs that can create score marks for you. So I'm gonna hold it and I'm gonna draw the score marks on here coming out in one direction. Like that, oh, sorry, like that. And then now I'm gonna go the opposite direction and make my score marks intersecting. And now the bottom is all scored up and ready to go. And now I need to score the bottom of my foot. That's what this is called. I like to use this for that because this is a small surface and I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up if I use this. So I'm gonna score with my wooden skewer. I'm gonna make my lines go in one direction. Okay, my lines are all in one direction. And now I'm gonna make them intersect. And now it's all roughed up. And now it's gonna go rough end here to rough end here. All right. So it's always gonna be rough ends that attach together like this. Okay, do not put the smooth end on the rough end. It's rough end to rough end. That's what attaches. All right, now I'm gonna get my slip because we did the scoring part. I'm gonna apply slip to my foot. Notice how I'm dabbing the slip on. I'm putting it down and I'm picking it up, putting it down and picking it up. I'm not just holding my paintbrush and going around or even just keeping pressure going around. You're gonna potentially ruin your slip marks if you did that. So that's why I dab it on and I recommend you guys do the same. All right, slip has been put all the way around my foot and now I'm going to put it on my mug. So before I seal it on, I'm gonna shape it and get it to the right place that I want. Nothing is set in stone yet. I'm just gonna make sure it's the right shape and it's in the right place that I want. That's why I'm kind of tweaking it and moving it around. And now that I'm happy with the placement of it, I'm gonna gently push it down and go around. The pressure is so important because that's what seals it together and makes sure there's no air bubbles. And again, I'm gonna keep going around again, pushing it down, sealing it together. Like that. The slip oozing out of the sides here and in the middle tells me that you're doing it right because you added pressure. And I'm gonna go around one more time just to really make sure that it is on there. And we're good. All right, one more new tool that we have not used is gonna be your makeshift loop tool. There's a little paper clip end and a popsicle end. We're using the popsicle end today. All you're gonna do is take the popsicle end and start to pull the clay over the crack. This is just gonna seal it and cover up that crack. So that's what I mean. I'm taking the clay from the foot and I'm pulling it over the line. Let me find a spot where I can show you. So I'm just taking the clay from the foot and gently pulling it over the crack that we just put on. I'm gonna go all the way around doing this. Okay, I made it all the way from the outside. And now I'm gonna do it on the inside. The inside and the outside have been pulled over that crack to seal it. And the last step you're gonna do now is to blend. Again, you can use your finger and just start to smooth it out there, or you can use your sponge, whichever one you prefer. And you're just gonna do that until you can smooth it out and you can't tell that you created a seam here. So that's gonna make it look like that. So it goes from this rough end to a smooth side. So now you're gonna blend all the way around and all the way on the inside. And then clean your sponge out when it gets too slippy. What I mean by that is it starts to just get clay caked onto it and it kind of turns into like a thin layer of slip that's on your sponge instead of your sponge. All right, and then you're gonna have a nice little foot all blended out and ready to go. Once you have it blended out looking perfect, then you can flip it over and try to make sure that it will hold up your mug and that it is even. If it's not even, you're just gonna kind of push on the side that's up more and try to weigh it out, but mine's pretty good, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. If your rim can handle it, leave it flipped over for the day and put it in your bag and put it away. All right, so make sure to put it in here and then do not add water. We do need these to start slowly drying, not fully, but slowly. And then you're just gonna put it in here, slide it all the way into the back, and then make sure that you're pulling this flat because look, it's wide open. You don't want all that air in there, and putting it underneath. And then when you put it down, the weight of the board is gonna hold it down. Really quickly, I wanna show you what to do with your scrapped clay. All of this stuff, just roll it up into a ball and get your scrap clay bag out. Anything that is rolled into a ball is bad clay. Do not use this clay. It has air bubbles. You just smushed it all together and put more air bubbles in it. So do not use that clay. However, we have this nice little block of clay that we cut off from our good clay. This is still usable. It all goes in the same bag, but because it's not rolled up into a ball, you know that you can still use this. We do not use this, but we do use this. Give it a spray and then seal it up. All right, that's how you add your foot. Hopefully that, I know that was really long. I'm sorry, I don't know how to edit videos, but here you